You're listening to Bright by Your Side with Jen Dyer. Upleveling in the age of anxiety with groundbreaking science. Are you looking to live your life with more flow and ease? Every episode, she has enough surprising information and tips that you will be able to come away with at least one nugget that could change your life. You will learn to build resilience to stress and overwhelm, find joy every day, and manifest your dreams. Gain understanding of your little terrified human that is holding you back, and that brave, bright inner being that is nagging you to move forward. She's here to help you feel empowered to make that change. Bright by Your Side starts now.
Welcome to Bright by Your Side with Jen, Upleveling in the age of anxiety with groundbreaking science here on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm Jen Dyer, your host, and today we are talking about childhood trauma, particularly empowering women and children to not just heal from their trauma, but how to grow and thrive. So today's guest is a dedicated advocate, healer, and author. She combines her expertise as a support group facilitator and seasoned school social worker to help individuals process their trauma and build resistance. Through her award-winning children's book, Staying the Course, a story about trauma healing and finding my voice in the middle of silence, she inspires hope and healing in young readers. She's also the founder of Walk Her Through Life, a transformative platform dedicated to shedding light on the impacts of childhood trauma. Through advocacy, education, and community support, they empower women and children to embrace their strength, rewrite their stories, and move forward with confidence. It is my pleasure to introduce, and please join me in welcoming DeShala Walker. Welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm great. It's so great to see you, DeShala. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending your time here. And, thank you for dedicating your life to helping others through such a painful time, because I know it takes a lot out of you to hear these stories day in and day out. I know that. So I just commend you. You're an angel for just dedicating yourself to that.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. It's such a blessing.
I'm excited. I'm so excited you're here. So like I said, it takes a very special person to dedicate their life to this work, to helping people who have suffered trauma. So tell us, how did you come to dedicating your life to helping these folks?
So I want to start my backstory a little bit. I have to backtrack a little bit. So obviously I went through college, I went through grad school, and there was a time in my life when I was an undergrad when my dad was encouraging me to go to become a social worker in general. I had took some undergrad courses, and I always knew that I loved helping people. I enjoyed doing those things. And then honestly, just about a year ago or so, to be where I am today, as like a woman who's a business owner, I wanted to expand and write my book, and be where I am today with write and stay in the course, so that I'm able to give people empowerment and reminding them that they are not alone. And that's pretty much my journey of like how I got to where I was to where I am today, and how I'm trying to push that out and make people aware of that this tool is available for them. So
absolutely. So I want to show the book right here. We're going to talk about the book. It's called Staying the Course. I know, it's so exciting, huh? And of course I read this and I was, it was very moving because, I've met DeShala and I'm just like, oh, this is her story. She's talking about when she was a kid and being goofy, but then and I'm going to tell you, it's not graphic at all. Like, this is totally something that could be in a kid's life, in a school library, at the Boys and Girls Club. It's just kind of, she's this happy kid, this thing happened. And then it was how she went from being happy to being very quiet, how her behavior changed. And then it goes into how to recognize the signs, which is why it's so important. Because sometimes it might not be you, it might be your best friend who needs this book, and you're the one seeing it, or it's not your child, it's your niece or somebody. It's very, because, one of the most frightening things as a parent is to, when your kid goes off to swim camp or summer camp or wherever, or even just, sports coaches, right?
yes,
How it's you're totally putting your child's well-being in the hands of they're strangers to you. So how to look for those signs. So as I said, it really should be available for kids to pick up. And this, I know this picture is kind of deterring for you, maybe if it's sad, but I'll tell you, if you are a sad person, you will look at this and go, I know that face. That's me, or that's my friend. It's so important to show not a happy kid. I think this is a great art. I think a great job. So yeah, it won the Impact Award, which is really exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I feel like it needs to be out there in libraries and boys and girls clubs or wherever. So what advice do you have for a parent or teacher who might suspect that a child is experiencing trauma, but doesn't know how to start the conversation?
I definitely would say before starting the conversation, to make sure that they are seeing clear signs that that kid may have been going like through that situation. So for example, maybe the kid have some physical signs that, or they share that they have some unexplained comfort. Maybe there is some emotional or behavior signs such as quick move swings. The teacher and or parent together would know those particular signs. And it's really important to take some time, whether it's by themselves with the kid or with the mental health counselor or a social worker, to sit down and make sure that you give them the opportunity to talk, and not be judgmental and not to have those questions that make them feel like you're making an assumption about what they're going through. And just being a person there to be able to like listen to the kid, and let them know that it's okay to have those feelings, and then if they're scared to share whatever they have been through, that's totally okay. It's very much normal. And even if they tell you bits and pieces of the story, a little bit of a time, it's okay to like, take the conversation slow, and then yeah, reach out to their family members to also to let them know that they also are aware of what's going on with their child too.
Yeah. And the sad thing about this, I worked in the foster care system with abused kids, and a lot of time it's a family member. It's somebody in the house. It's really, you have to be very vigilant. So in practical terms, like you talked about how you weren't enjoying you didn't want to do the things you used to enjoy in the book. Like what other things, if you're looking at your kid and suddenly they're just not being themselves, right? And maybe they're afraid to say something because maybe this person is your husband, you're like, so I guess how do you chip away at that? And is there any other signs that you can look for, like when they're not sleeping? If they're like, are there other things, night terrors or nightmares even? Like any other things that parents can keep an eye out for? Because let's face it, it seems like certainly with teenagers, everybody has anxiety, and we're all isolating ourselves because of our phones and our rooms, and so what can a parent look for, like real going about your day kind of thing?
A parent or the adult who went through, like the parent looking for it in the kid, or the parent or the person who's like married to someone who's been through it, or a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, because here's the thing, nothing's more scary than being clueless, right? So what if your kid, you're thinking they're just having bad days at school, and it's actually much worse?
Yeah.
So how do you know if it's like, how do you start a conversation, I guess, if because they're going to be like, fine, I'm fine. How do you get them past that to open up?
I think, well, it does come with time, because you can't force somebody to like open up. And I think it's important for people to keep that in mind, to be patient with the individual, because maybe the person is, for example, they're expressing some type of like sexual type of behavior, or they are avoiding anything that may be around them, or maybe they are very clinginess to, or maybe want mom or dad to be around them. I think it's really important. Definitely the change in sleeping patterns is something that's very common. But maybe then you'll notice the parent will notice like there's a decline in their academics, or there were
Yes.
social performances and things like that. Like it's important to the parent to say that something like, you seem upset lately, and there's something, is, is there something on your mind? And that's what I meant by like having an open conversation, so that they have
Mhm.
the kid have the autonomy to be able to open up, and to provide reassurance that the child know that they're safe and they're loved, and just continue to observe those patterns as well. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's like, if suddenly they don't want to go to karate and you're like, but your teacher's amazing. And like, maybe
mhm,
it's the teacher and they don't want to tell you because you keep telling the kid that their teacher's
mhm,
awesome. Right. I mean,
mhm,
to
mhm.
really make sure that you're telling you're watching your words when that you're leaving it open and not trying, we don't realize that we're influencing the
Yeah.
conversation with what we say sometimes.
Mhm.
So, because sometimes it's somebody who you really like, and usually it is because they're really good at that. They're
Mhm.
really good at
Mhm.
gaining trust, right? So,
Yeah. And sometimes children may not even disclose like their experiences directly, so it's important for parents know their child. My dad tells me all the time, "I know you," even though I say, "No, you don't." And I'm older now, so it's important to trust your instinct, and to create an environment where they feel safe. I mean, I know like repeat it like 3 different times, but I'm like really just hounding that in of like how important that is to like make sure that they do feel safe and comfortable, even when the conversation is uncomfortable.
yeah.
So
And so you talk about your dad a lot. I mean,
I
I love your relationship
do.
with him, and that, I mean, and I know like he really
Yeah,
helped you through this.
yeah.
We're a little bit low on time, but maybe, it must have been really awkward to talk to your dad about that, or how did you have the nerve when all you have is a dad and you have to talk about this? Like, how'd you do that?
Yeah. One day I'm gonna make it really short. I was driving home. My heart was beating fast. I was praying, and I made a phone call and had the courage to say, you know what, Dad, this incident had happened to me when I was 6 years old, and he knew who the babysitter was. And yeah, that's literally just, I mean, it sounds like it was like, oh, it was simple, but it was very, very hard because I was crying while expressing myself to him. But knowing that he took the time to actually listen to me, meant a lot to me. He was upset, I'm sure, deep down, but he was very calm while talking to me, and that really did help me a lot. So,
That's amazing for a dad. I mean, that
oh
is
yeah,
just, oh my gosh. Well, but
yeah,
the thing that I'm noticing is that it took at least 10 years because you were driving for you to
yeah.
get to
Oh,
that point,
yeah,
right? So that's
yeah.
why you're doing this, right? Is so that you don't have to live with this for a
25 years.
decade,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's, kudos to your dad. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how to move forward. So, you got some signs to look for,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll talk about how to move forward and heal. And then we'll also talk about how to get a hold of DeShala's book and how to get a hold of DeShala if you want to work with her or have your kids work with her, whatever it is you need. So, again, this is Bright by Your Side with Jen on Transformation Talk Radio, and come back right after the break with DeShala Walker. Welcome back to Bright by Your Side with Jen. I am here with DeShala Walker on Transformation Talk Radio, and we are talking about her book. It's called Staying the Course, and it's a book, a story about trauma healing and finding a voice in the middle of silence. It's DeShala talks about her own experience when she was 6 and how she was just sharing with us in the first half of this how her dad actually she tells her dad that this happened to her back when she was 6 and she was basically driving at this point. But DeShala helps people move forward from this because she has this very deep understanding. So DeShala, welcome back. Let's talk.
Yeah.
I'm talking for you. So tell us, let's say I suspect I'm either a volunteer somewhere or it's my friend's kid and it's
Mhm.
really awkward and I suspect this stuff. What is the proper way to go about this, or what do you recommend?
To move forward from the
Yeah,
abusive.
well, at least to how, like, just the reporting, but then how to help them move forward, and then how would you help them move forward? Like, what do you
I'll just
recommend?
go by what I'll do. So I like to, so at least I guess in my field, especially as a school social worker, we have a curriculum that's called Bounce Back. So it's mainly for the third graders that we work with, but it's a curriculum to help them recognize what we So there's two things. There's bounce back curriculum and there's second step curriculum. The second step curriculum, it talks about how to recognize when something is unsafe, refuse it by saying no, and then report it to an adult. And then after they have done that, and then they could possibly be a part of what's called bounce back, which is to help them to move forward from them trauma, and just learning different skills of like how are they feeling and how are their behaviors, and getting them to slowly start telling the story themselves in baby steps. So you don't have to just jump right into the actual event of what happened, but more so how did they feel within the moment, is really, really important for children to recognize. And also just to have that support system. You have the support system at school and you have the support system at home, and maybe even in your community by going to some type of therapist to help them to move forward. Because everybody's journey is different. It may take them a few years, it may take them 20. It's up to the person. So.
Absolutely. And, as a parent, to try to get a kid to open up to you, if you're not a professional in a professional setting, one of the best things you can do is be doing an activity. With like, if you're a boy, play catch, ask them what's going on, or if you're a girl, you can, you go for a walk, go to the zoo or something where you can just kind of have, because that's why sometimes you have your best conversations in the car, because you're not face to face. It's that face to face that becomes really intimidating for opening people up, right? Especially kids, they feel really intimidated by that. So, right. And then you have a whole protocol for helping people bounce back, helping kids. Yeah. So, so how can our listeners support? Because I want to make sure that in fact, actually, before I move on to how we can support you, I do want to call out in the back of the last end of this book, they do talk about for a child, like the zones that they're not. No, actually, why don't you explain, like when you go over the different types of touches and things in right? Super important.
Yeah. So in kid talk, I pretty much say safe touches are examples like hugs and giving a high five. Unsafe touches is more of like you're hitting someone or you're kicking someone, which you should not be doing anyways. But then I'll go into what's called unwanted touch, which is what the bulk of my story is about. And I always explain to students and families that unwanted touches is when someone touch you in your private area, basically, and what the private area is where their swimming suits is covering their body. And so every time I tell kids that, like, where that is and you know how to use the bathroom, so I don't have to like explicitly say what those terms are. But it's really important to go through that. But in additionally, again, telling them additionally to have them have an opportunity to write down if they have ever been through this unsafe situation, and if they have, who can they go to and who can they talk to, while going with the next steps for that. Yeah.
Well, and so I have a little story of something that had happened to me. It doesn't compare to anything serious, but my orthodontist felt me up in the chair on his last day before he retired. So I know, but I was almost 13, not quite 13.
Wow. Yeah.
Kid brain. Like I could hear the ladies, because there were two ladies that worked there too. Yeah. And I was the last person in the evening, and they were right there on the other side of the little door, the little room with the window. And he just starts filling me up above the waist. And I looked at him and I pushed his hand away with my fist. I totally gave him the straight arm. Yeah. And he's like, "Okay, Jenny, you're all done," and walks me past the ladies and totally escorts me out. But I remember thinking they knew. Like, they didn't know, but I was a kid, since I could hear them. I knew they were in the area. I figured he did this all the time, and they knew. And so I went home and I told my mom, and of course she immediately starts calling people, but they're like, "Well, this was a long time ago. Before we had rights, right? Well, he's retiring. He's not going to do this to anybody else," which of course we know that's not right at all, because they do this stuff. But I found out when I talked to my friends, he'd been doing worse to them. And I was fortunate that didn't happen until the end, but none of them spoke up. None of them knew what to say or do. And here this guy was the little town. We were in a smaller town, and he was the orthodontist for like all the girls in my class, because we could walk there after school. Your kids have this very weird, warped idea of how the world works. And that's why it's so important to explain to them, like, you need to use your voice and say something, because all those girls, he was doing stuff to all of them. And it was awful. Yeah.
And knowing that their voice do matter, because a lot of them would,
Yes.
keep their mouth closed, and that's why I said it. While in the middle of silence, I'm like, I don't skip this. I'm gonna speak up and say something. Their voice, it's empowerment. It's, to build confidence, to let them know like this is not right, and they need to know that now while they're young, and not wait until later on. But it is good when you were 13 that you did speak up, and he's like, Mom, this is what happened, which I did not do that. I waited 25 years, and I don't want anyone else to do that, to wait that long. Speak up now so that you can get the help that you need.
Well,
Yeah.
my mom was a social worker, so I
Okay.
cheated.
Okay.
Like we talked about that stuff.
Okay.
That was actually conversation. But
Okay.
even still,
Okay.
even though that like she could, she was a social worker, we talked, she knew all about this stuff. But even
Yeah.
then, I still had weird ideas about how the orthodontist office worked. Right? I mean, I knew what to tell her. I knew what it was
Okay.
wrong. I knew to make him stop. But I still, you just have these really warped ideas about adults and what they know and don't know. And you really think because I was the kid that always got caught doing anything bad. So I thought the whole world I thought adults knew everything. And it turns out they don't,
Right.
and especially when
Right.
you're really little, you really believe adults know everything and you find out they have no idea this stuff is going on. Right.
Yeah.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh. I know. Folks, it's out there. That's why having a book like this that's accessible to kids, you'd be surprised when the stories come out.
Mhm.
And
You
actually if someone starts sharing their story, people do start sharing their story and you realize everybody was
Well, even
affected.
thinking about you and as an adult, and you remembering that there's also several adults who also came to me, including in my own, family, who confided and said, "Oh, that happened to me too." And
Right?
that's what makes me mad. That's why I'm
Yes.
doing this, because it becomes a generational curse, and that needs to stop today. Like, that's why I'm
Yes.
pushing this out and really have the dream of wanting to travel so that I can talk more about it, and have workshops and things like that. So,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
And I do want to say that DeShala is available to do book signings. She's available to
Hmm.
do workshops and to come speak. If you are at an organization that works with kids,
Hmm.
absolutely. DeShala will come and with her books and tell her story and show the kids, tell the kids what to do to protect themselves,
Hmm.
how to
Hmm.
talk about it.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, I was agreeing with you. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I was
'cause
like, yeah.
it's so important that they have the words to do it, right? Because
Mhm.
even, obviously a lot of kids are lacking this, just how to even start that conversation. It's so
Mhm.
weird. It's such a
Mhm.
weird conversation to have,
Yeah.
right? And it's
Yeah.
obviously one that should not be taking place in general. But
Right. Right.
okay, so
Exactly.
how can our listeners support your mission to empower? I want to hear about Walker Through Life and how can we
Mhm.
support and get a hold in touch with you?
So Walker Through Life is also for those women out there who, like you, Miss Jen, who has been through an unfortunate situation. And I also do support groups every Sunday, 6 p.m. Central. I don't know what that is in PST or EST time, but I'm sure
It'll be
you could figure that out.
4 o'clock here
Four
in the
o'clock.
Pacific
There we
time.
go. Thank you.
Yes.
And it's an opportunity for us to, again, share bits and the pieces of our stories, talk about self-care strategies, and
Yes.
then just simply just having that support group is really, really important. Aside from me doing or having my book for the kiddos. And then I will also say, Walker Through Life is about their life, their journey of how they're taking a step forward so that they can move on, and just, I don't know, be a better person, I guess, in general. Meaning not being so stuck in the mindset of like, I am the only one who's been through this and I'm alone, and you're not alone. I have, of course, you can also support me by going on Amazon and purchasing my book. I really would appreciate that. And yeah, reach out to me. I would love to do workshops. I would love to come do, assemblies and all those things, so that I can share with kids my story, but then also they probably can look up to someone who's like who's been through similar things that they may have or may not have been through. Just meeting an author in general, I think is pretty cool. So, yeah.
It is super cool. It is super
Yeah.
cool to meet because again, then you're giving kids the example that they can do this too. They can be an
Mhm.
author,
They can be a
right?
writer.
Yes, that's right. Because you can be anything you want. It just, it's so important to heal from the things that are holding you back, right? All
Yes.
of those feelings. And I love the fact that you bring that community, and where you're not alone, and you'll get great ideas and great advice from your peers
Hmm.
and who've been through the same thing and a lot of times worse. You'd be
Hmm.
surprised. So, um, being of service like that, and you're helping the other people in the group and they're helping you, and being of service is a great healer as well.
Hmm. Thank
That's
you.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And so I do want to share that your email to reach DeShala, it's walkherthroughlife@gmail.com. Um, just reach out if you have a question. I'm sure she'd be happy to point you in the right direction and
Yes.
how to help.
Yeah, I can do that. And also you can always find me on social media. I'm on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and actually LinkedIn too. So if you have a LinkedIn account, find me. You probably will look for DeShala Walker though, if you're looking for me on LinkedIn. It's not Walker Through Life on LinkedIn. So yeah.
That's good. Yeah, because we didn't even talk about the adults that are walking around living with us because the book is kind of geared for kids. But as
Yep.
you said, you
But
were the adult walking
coming.
around.
Yep.
That was
It,
you.
So
Yeah.
it's coming
So
out. I'm planning on writing more books for kids, and then I want to write another one for an adult too. So it's just
right.
take it one step at a time. So yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't even talk about forgiveness or the power of that. And that's a whole other one. We'll do another show on how you
Yeah. Oh
forgive
my
somebody,
gosh.
right? That's a
I
whole other
can,
show. I know.
yep. Jen, we should definitely do that. I can tell you, I would love to come back on the show and just tell the entire story of how it went with me explaining it to my dad. Only shared a snippet today. And then how, yeah, like you said, the power of forgiveness is really huge. So I would love to come back.
Yes. So, okay, we have 1 minute. Is there any tip that you would like to leave just as far like to a parent, that's looking at these kids?
Mhm.
Quick
I
tip.
would one huge tip is like I mentioned earlier, just knowing that their voice matters. They are not alone. And thank you, parents and all caregivers out there, for just being there for your children and maybe students that you're working with. And thanking you for taking the time to listen to those children, because they will remember that you actually took the time to do that, and they really do appreciate it. So,
Oh, yes. I love that.
mhm.
Yes. So, DeShala, I want to thank you again for being here and sharing your time with us. And again, we will have this conversation again because there's so much for us to get into. And I
Yep.
want to thank the audience again for joining us. I am very grateful that you took the time to listen to this conversation. My name is Jen, and I'm here to help. And this is Bright by Your Side on Transformation Talk Radio. Thank you.
You have been listening to Bright by Your Side with Jen, upleveling in the age of anxiety with groundbreaking science on Transformation Talk Radio. If you are considering mental health medication for yourself or your child, please try this first. Life skills and gut health are keys to reducing anxiety. Let us show you it's easier than you think. Tune in every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time to feel optimistic about your own abilities and learn easy, proven ways to live life with ease. Become resilient to stress, anxiety, and overwhelm, and find joy. We're bringing you solutions to the problems stressing you out. We do the research for you and present it on a silver platter with a side of fun and laughter. Every show will leave you smiling, optimism, and joy in real time. To connect with Jen, visit brightbyyourside.com.